What's going on, people? Mike C-Town here with another Dead in Hip Hop solo album review, and today I'm talking about the new album from Travis Scott entitled Astroworld. In case you're confused and wondering why I'm reviewing this on my channel, go watch the Dead in Hip Hop review first. The thing is, I didn't listen to this album for the shoot, even though I was supposed to. I totally fucked up, so I wasn't actually in the review. At least I wasn't lending any opinion of the actual album because I hadn't really listened to it. But we figured that maybe you guys would want my opinion on it just to kind of round out the crew. Otherwise, I would just not be reviewing this on my channel. We've reviewed a couple of his mixtapes, and we even reviewed Rodeo, which everyone seems to love, and it just was not for me. So I didn't really know what to expect with this album. I figured it's probably just going to be a really creative mess that doesn't really work for me. Was I correct? Let's find out. I've not really been a fan of Travis Scott. I've never really been into his music. I found him to be quite interesting, very creative, but I just didn't vibe with the sounds he used. We reviewed a couple of his mixtapes, which I didn't really enjoy. We even reviewed Rodeo, which everyone seemed to love, but it just wasn't for me. But the first song on this album, Stargazing, it did nothing for me. You know, the beat was a bit dry. This is not the kind of production that I like. It definitely got better once the beat switched, but I feel like it would have been better for a different rapper because Travis didn't really wow me here. He didn't really do anything to justify that beat. Except the line, she keep my dick jumping, feel like I'm Moby. I actually thought that was kind of funny. Carousel was almost cool, the beat was sort of interesting, but the vibe was very similar to the first song, and I feel like people have done that vocal samples so many times that it's just played out at this point, unless you're doing something really different with it, and they didn't here. Frank Ocean's contribution was kind of tight, but then again, it wasn't enough to make the song tight enough for me to return to. I'm gonna jump right into it and say the best moment on the entire album for me was James Blake's part on Stop Trying to Play God. It's just very sensitive, it's heartfelt, and it sounded gorgeous over those church organ sounds. Like, I mean, he absolutely stole the entire album to me, because the rest of the track was pretty plain and flavorless. No Bystanders was a nice break of pace. While it wasn't a hard head-banging track, it had a bit more energy and personality than a lot of the previous songs. And the first time I noticed him sounding unmistakably like Kanye on this album. But the Tear the Club Up reference was kind of cool. Like, you know, giving 3-6 that love that they deserve to get. Tear that club up. Tear that club up. But just sonically, it just didn't really work that well for me. For Skeletons, the Weeknd feature, which I was actually looking forward to, was fairly useless. I typically really like hearing Weeknd feature on other people's songs because I feel like he always kills it, but this one was extremely underwhelming. It's like the feature was so buried and it blended a bit too much. Now, what he did on the next song, Wake Up, was a lot more interesting, at least sonically. You know, the way Weeknd delivered his lines was a lot more compelling than what he did on Skeletons. Now, the lyrics themselves were a bit lame. Cause that pussy's so good, girl, that pussy's so sweet. Ah. But the beat itself was a bit nicer than a lot of the others. At least it sounded different. The acoustic guitar sample was really, really well done, and the way the drums surrounded it was dope. Nothing else on this interested me until the closer, Coffee Bean. The beat was a bit more interesting than a lot of the other beats on this album. Again, it was a break from the monotony of what felt like the same beat over and over and over again. It almost felt like a Ninth Wonder-ish kind of beat or something. And the way Travis wrote this beat was actually really cool. Like, why does he only seem to rap like this like 1 out of every 30 songs that he records? Like, his flow was dope on here, and there was actually a little bit of wordplay. Nothing enough to make me memorize or walk away saying, God damn, that motherfucker can rap, but it was decent. Or maybe it's just the fact that it was decent among the rest of these really plain songs. You know what I mean? It's like a Church's Chicken Biscuit is gonna be really dope if all you've been eating all week are fucking TV dinners. For the most part, this album is dull and lifeless to me. The beats were a bit too samey for me, and the mood of the album was a bit too mellow for me to get really any enjoyment out of. with the exception of a few songs here and there. I was pretty much bored to tears. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I'm just telling the truth. Even sampling the beat from Goody Mob's Cell Therapy, one of the most iconic beats from Southern hip hop, it just wasn't enough for me, and it fell relatively flat. And Travis doesn't bring any life to these beats at all. For the most part, he's delivering the same type of flow and cadence throughout the entire album. Nothing particularly varied, nothing particularly creative. It just all felt very basic to me. This album put me to sleep a few times while trying to listen to it, and that's not an exaggeratory statement for comedy's sake. I'm being literal. I literally put this on, and it took me a few times to get through it because I was sitting on the couch and I was nodding off like an old man trying to watch a movie at 9 o'clock at night. This album was named after the theme park Astroworld, but in Travis's own way. I feel like this is a theme park where people go and they're in a perpetual sleep phase where they just float around with their eyes glazed over, and Teletubbies show up occasionally and throw Percocets in their mouth. Nothing else really happens there. I'm gonna go in the traditional Dead End Hip Hop style, since this is kind of a part 2 to the crew review, and I'll pretend that Rod is here forcing me to give my favorite tracks. I'm gonna go ahead and say, Stop Trying to Play God, No Bystanders, Wake Up, and Coffee Bean. That's all I got, Rod. No, I don't have 5, Rod. No, I'm not gonna pretend I have 5, Rod. Leave me alone, Rod. If you're watching, Travis, I'm not your fan base, so you really don't need to care about my review. If anything, listen to all the kids who are absolutely enamored by everything that you do, because that's the beauty of art. Even though I don't find what you're currently doing to be anything original or interesting or compelling, there are hordes of other people that do. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters, because if you're truly making music and art for yourself, and a lot of other people seem to enjoy it, then you're on the right track. Who cares about the people who don't connect with it? But for those of you that are asking outside of Travis, yeah, all in all, this album is just not for me at all. Unless I have insomnia, and I feel like this will lull me to sleep like a baby hearing their mother singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars. So that's it for this album review. Make sure you leave some comments in the comment section down there. Let me know what you guys thought. And as usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you. And I'll see you guys next time. All right? Peace out, boy!